So there's two main parts of this operation. One is the protest area that's over there.
Right.
So you have a few different stages, chanting stuff. This is the kind of the local residents of this village. So this is an actual village. We have Red Cross. We have these two tents who do food.
So how long has all of this been here for?
Since the no, it's 45 days.
Wow, long time.
That was the initial rally here that just kind of formed because people wanted to come and protest.
Yeah.
But some people never left.
I know, it seems that way.
Yeah. So after the first time, people just stayed on, and then they have tents. Now, of course, this used to be just kind of anyone's land to just kind of hop on and have a tent, but now there's a bit more of a tab on who's here.
Right, okay.
So, and there's a lot of other like educational work going on here, some policy writing. So there's, maybe you know about this, but there's a kind of organized attempt to kind of propose certain things to the government.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work done on that. And it's also just, I mean, just like any other place, there's the internal kind of administrative work. So you have to like keep tab on things, make sure there's no theft.
Yeah, well, it must be a lot of organization that goes into all of this.
Exactly. So yeah, this is the municipality called the Drummer. And this is our local resident. She's an artist. This is our library. You can come in here.
A library, oh nice.
Oh, you haven't been in here?
No, no. I've been in Sri Lanka for 9 weeks now. I was in Columbo 9 weeks ago and I only just got back here yesterday because I'm flying out tonight.
Wait, in Columbo? No, this is Columbo. You mean somewhere else? Where were you before?
I've done the whole of Sri Lanka in the last 9 weeks.
Oh!
Yeah, so I've been like Jaffna, Trincomalee, Ella, Welligot, everywhere. Basically.
Everywhere.
So I've finally come full circle. I'm back in Columbo, and yeah, just in those 9 weeks, like the amount that's changed in the country, like in terms of the fuel, the electricity, all of that is mind blowing, man. It's mind blowing.
And where are you from?
England, from London. Yeah.
I was hoping it's the US, but okay, close enough. I got here from the US just to do some work on my visa.
Ah, okay.
And so kind of got.
Well, what brought you here? Why Sri Lanka?
I'm Sri Lankan.
Right.
So then I came here to switch something with my visa, but then once I got here, initially things dragged on because of Corona and stuff. But then I realized I don't want to go back so quickly, considering what's happening here.
Right.
Like this, like for many of us, we grew up saying, you know, this is our country. We went to public schools, like we owe something back, and all of a sudden here it is. Like here's the one opportunity. If you say so, do something. So
yeah, now or never, right?
It's now or never. So you know, in our lifetimes, hopefully this is it. Hopefully this is the one time we have to step up, do something, and hopefully there's no other time.
Yeah.
But this really is bad. I mean, right now you see some of the stuff with like protests and lack of gas and gasoline. Like
I know. I remember like a month and a half ago, I've been on like a motorbike the whole time, and I would queue for petrol maybe half an hour, something like that. And now it's like through the night the queues. I mean, I was speaking to my homestay owner 2 nights ago when I was in Hatton.
Yeah.
He says he queues for 3 hours just to get petrol, and it's like. It's just awful, man. I just feel so bad for them.
Tip of the iceberg. So our annual expenses are, I think, roughly around 18 billion US. Our expected our expected in revenue from loans is supposed to be somewhere around 4 billion for the next 3 years, which means we cannot afford to bring out of stuff. I mean, we had an excess production of rice some years ago, and now we can't meet our own needs. We can't even meet like a single meal need of the country.
I know, it's awful, man.
Yeah, so we are in a tough spot, and especially given that we have no way to import basic necessities like fuel, it's really tough to see how we're going to get out of this.
That's literally what I was about to ask, like what is the solution? Like how do you get out of this? Because like what I was also just thinking this whole time is the government, through the power cuts, the fuel, I mean, I know they're just trying to like filter money out of the country, whatever, but like they're just going to make things worse and worse because like businesses can't thrive, people can't, you know, the economy is never going to, how can you get things going again? Yeah,
so one strategy, the current one is to keep printing more money. So what that does is it buys time and makes the situation even worse down the line. So inflation usually catches up in some long-term windows, let's say 6 months to a year, it will start to reflect in the prices. And so right now, short-term strategy, more printing money. And it will get some domestic movement going, domestic consumption going. But the import problem is not solved.
And also, like, hasn't the rupee inflated something like 60% in the last
more. I think I think there's a Johns Hopkins study that puts us at 127% for a basic, like the basic basket of goods. So I think it's just for food. I can't remember, but either way, it's in that. I mean, if you just look at the dollar exchange rate.
I know. Well, when I got here, it was like 250 or like 300 or something, and now it's like it's nearly 500 now or something crazy like that.
I mean, and maybe just before you came here, it was about 200. That's where it used to be for a long time. It used to be about 100 for a long time, and it became 200, and now it's like 400 or something. I don't know. I've lost tab of what the
It's mind blowing, man.
So yeah, the import problem is a real problem, and I think the crazy part is no one seems to be panicking enough. I mean, if the situation is this bad and we still have some amount of fuel in our tank, I mean, gas stations, some electricity in the country, soon that will have to cease to exist. Yeah. And at that point, it's going to, like, this is going to be real bankruptcy, like straight up bankrupt. Like, we can't print ourselves money, like, because we can't buy stuff with rupees. India had a...
Well, no one will accept them anymore.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
I think India had a swap. So recently there was a loan where India accepted some kind of currency swap. But I think as things are going on at this rate, no country is going to accept currency swaps with Sri Lankan rupees. So that then, no matter how much money you print, there's nobody to import. And with nobody to import, country just stops. At that point, it's tough to say what this country will look like. But I mean, then we see examples of this, like in many kind of bankrupt African nations. There's and even Middle East after the Arab Springs, there are some countries.
Yeah, even like Venezuela comes to mind, stuff like that.
Exactly, and South American countries who went through this before. Yeah, so it's interesting. And the thing is, they have land. So other problems, they have land borders, which solves some problems somewhat naturally. So we need ships to come here. So we need to, in order to export, we need to have some ships coming in with stuff. Switch the containers, send stuff out. Yeah. So it's highly unlucrative to ships to show up anyway. Yeah. And then even the fuel has to come through ships. On Venezuela, I mean, all the South American countries could have plumbed themselves fuel lines. So when they can pay, the fuel can just show up. Yeah. But we always have natural delays in all that.
Well, so I guess like you say, the ships will show up if they think they can get something in return, but they don't want the rupee. So I guess like maybe barter system, like we'll give you tea, you give us fuel. Beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, but Sri Lanka has a lot of natural resources, right? I mean, like,
that's right. So we our last move seems to be to just kind of sell the country off, which infuriates many people because that's kind of a end game move. I mean, there's no way out of it. And so right now, most of our loans, so that either you can sell the land off directly, which I think is a really bad move, but the other indirect ways, you put land as collateral on loans. Right. And so right now we're making all kinds of deals with countries to do that, which means it's a one-time move. It's irrevocable, and kind of there's so much land. This is a small island, so I mean, if you're gonna play the land move, okay, there's a few plots of land left.
It's like a ticking time bomb.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So it's not a very, I mean, and it's not like we're doing something grand with the money we get. We get money which we use for day-to-day expenses. People are furious that the electricity bills are gonna double, because the problem is, everything is doubling except for wages. Wages are stagnant. So how does a country run when wages are stagnant and almost every other expense is like doubled? Yeah. So it's like inflation in its most
is there a minimum wage here, or is it just...
There is not.
No.
There's an implicit minimum wage on daily workers, but also that number is abysmally low. It's unbelievably low. So no, there's no federal minimum wage. For the next 3-5 years, we'll start to have an uptick on foreign money coming in. Like, we have to find our niche, which is not services, which is not sending people off into the Middle East to do labor work. Something else which has scalability, something like IT.
Well, I mean, the tourism industry here was like on the verge of really booming before all of this, wasn't it? Because like, I remember, especially like in the south and in the coastal areas, like the amount of new hotels that are coming out, the amount of like villas that people are building. Yeah. It's like, I feel like Sri Lanka's kind of undiscovered as like a tourist destination, but that was all about to change. Like, obviously all the surf culture started now, and now I feel like some people are just worried, like scared to come here, even though like I said, I've been here for 9 weeks and like it is really safe. Like, I feel safer than I do in England, you know what I mean? But the media just portray the situation to be much worse than it usually is.
And it's, I mean, for something like, I mean, if you look at the reality of this country, people who can leave it, leave it. So then inviting people to come here when half the country is eager to jump out is like, that's kind of hypocritical. I mean, there's some sense of like, okay, weird. So, But then again, the reason is not because the country's unsafe. The reason is because there's no way to earn money in the country. Like if you have foreign earned money and you're taking a vacation, yeah, go for it. I mean, if you're not trying to earn money here, but the liquidity of money in this economy is very low. I mean, there's no one carries money in this country, so it's really tough to make a living for someone who's highly educated even. So that's the reason that people are leaving. And another part is this: there are 2 stages of destroying our tourism situation. One, Corona was the first one,
Yeah.
but then there was the Easter attack, which also made things really awkward, because then Corona was one thing, but then we had that Easter bombing, like where they were like, so it's like, okay, is there like extremism here or some kind of bomb threat? And we had a history of civil war.
Yeah.
Alarming enough for people to feel unsafe.
Yeah.
But when the Easter bombings happened, it kind of was reminiscent of like, oh yeah, bombings, all that. So it's like, oh yeah, who do we remember from those days? Oh yeah, those guys. so kind of we flip-flopped back into electing people who a couple of years ago we were like, yeah, no thank you, like you guys are clearly criminals, clearly thieves, and people elected them out just because people were, I mean, that regime won the war, got re-elected, and I think the president changed the law so that he can be president indefinitely, and then people were like, oh yeah, no thank you, actually we don't want you.
That's like what Putin did like 20 years ago, isn't it? Right?
so
Get into power and then change the law so you can't ever not be in power. Yeah.
And then the only thing is he sustained somehow his place, but these guys, people were aware that they were not good people, and I think this is a small country, so even if you secretly put money in your pockets, if you have a large amount of people who work for you who are also taking a piece of the pie, eventually it gets leaked. So we all know when there's a construction project, when there's
That's what I mean. It feels like it's all coming out now, especially with like the airports they were building, the like what was the other thing? The like hospitals that they were getting like China to build, and then basically like the president's like brother or like some member of his family would get commission on that build because he was like the head of, yeah, you know, it's just all very,
it's almost become part of the culture, which is sad, because this country historically is very agriculture based, which is most people wake up early in the morning, go to their farms, work hard. The system is so,
it's just completely broken.
Yeah, broken.
The thing is, it's broken all over the world, but here it's like, in like England or America, it's like, yeah, we know the government are kind of fucking us over a bit, but it's like, it's not so bad on the ground where like you're actually like, my life is shit. But like here it's like, you just cannot hide from it anymore, you know what I mean? But you know, people realizing that and kind of knowing it now is the first step to hopefully changing things.
And even like concepts like inflation and its relationship to money printing. I mean, that's a somewhat sophisticated macroeconomic
I think
concept.
people have only literally realized inflation is a thing in like the last 5 years, basically since COVID. Before that, people were just like, oh, my pound is worth £1, but really it's not. Or the dollar's lost like 90% of its value in the last 50 years or something. It's like, you don't think so, because $1 is still $1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the world is waking up to that massively.
And especially Sri Lanka. I mean, I think because inflation is only an issue if it's not, I mean, the devaluation of a currency becomes an issue if the output from that country is not congruent with that depreciation. So if there's more output, then it works itself out. So if you have more money printing with increased output, the lack of purchasing power doesn't become an issue.
Yeah.
But here we as a country don't have the output anywhere near the output growth rate to match up to the kind of the money printing.
Yeah.
So then we have massive depreciation and a massive inability to purchase stuff. I mean, in the US or England, people still buy the same stuff. You ate cheese before you eat cheese now. You ate bacon before you eat bacon now. We don't do that.
Oh no.
We cannot afford to eat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like so many other Sri Lankans I've met over the last like 9 weeks have been like, we used to eat 3 meals a day. Now we're down to like 1 meal a day.
Exactly.
And like my wife used to not work, and now she has to work because we can't rely on one income anymore.
Yeah, you could have had bacon go up from $5 to $10, like £5, £10. But also wages would have gone up similarly, and you would be still eating. I mean, nothing of that nature happens here. Our prices of basic goods have increased incredibly, with no one getting a wage increase that is congruent with that kind of price, kinds of exclusionary behavior. Yeah, that's very common. I think at some level that's also what's keeping people from doing some level of entrepreneurship, not the fancy kind, not like Tesla, not inventing electric cars, but like selling coconut husks abroad.
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh, I just, you know, there's so little chance for it to be successful because of all the kind of hindrance by the
Exactly.
government and the system, it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother then. I'm not even going to try.
Like
Yeah.
there's all this kind of weird regulatory behavior. So I think first thing is let's find all the way, because to ask the government to be a central body that plans up the country's economy scares me and a lot of people. But the biggest say here is for people to leave. Why? Incompetence at best and corruption at worst. So to ask the government to come up with a new strategy for this country is like, okay, these are the same guys who brought us here. Half these people are clearly just abusing our money.
Yeah.
So then I think the alternative is no, let's make this country a kind of place where people who want to do something can do something. And let the market sort itself out. Right now there are opportunities. Right now there's people abroad who have the capital to do something here. Let them do it. Let them try it out. Let's run some experiments, see what sticks, see what doesn't. So I think,
Yeah, if you don't try, you'll never know, right?
exactly. But the worst thing is let's keep these guys out. So the most important thing now is to keep the government out of as many things as possible. Not government, but governance.
Yeah.
Any government institution, they've all failed us. So I think the important thing is that people who have capability, let them try. Let them take some risks on their own capital, and then for whoever wants to take a risk, let them take it. Let them give them that opportunity, and then hopefully in the meanwhile get enough funding so that people don't start dying and rioting and revolting. This is a peaceful protest, but things can get much uglier.
Well, I remember, was it the 9th of May that was when it got violent here? Were you here?
Yeah.
Well, what went down? So I was in Jaffna and the media were reporting it. You know, they're very dramatic about things. So what was it actually like?
So I wasn't here during the actual attack here. So the story roughly is that there were people who were who came from around the country to Columbo to beg the Prime Minister not to leave, in that some sense. And then there's like thousands of people who came in buses from around the country. And then somehow in the middle of that meeting, there were people who were political leaders who just incited violence. They were like, let's go to this place and let's show them who's boss. Like, let these kids don't know anything or whatever. And so they came with like all kinds of, not guns, but definitely sharp objects.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos. It was pretty horrific.
And they just started, just beating
just
people
attacking
up.
Like peaceful protesters.
Exactly, and here
stuff.
no one's armed. Everyone's like, this is the the revolution of love or whatever. So it's like, so it was kind of very shocking. And then of course, because that was live streamed, and that was the crazy part about it. Even many of us who later joined this place, and many of us are part of this, but many of us came back when we saw that incident, because then in the middle of lunchtime, on lunchtime TV news, it was live streaming this situation. All of a sudden you see like some lady getting beaten up by some guy with a pole. So okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then it caused an uproar that was unbelievable. I mean, that caused a death and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was just, people couldn't bear.
That was when they started like storming the MPs' houses and like burning stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It kind of led to this like.
That was the only time when I was like, this sounds like it's getting a bit out of hand now.
It got out of hand. Yeah, it definitely got out of hand. I mean, and
At the same time, I can see why people are so angry.
Exactly
It's
right.
like,
It's the one. I mean, it's like people could take enough of all the ways they've been wrong, and to finally see the few people who are here peacefully shouting their throats off to be beaten up by, say, okay, now that's way beyond. Like, incompetence is one thing. Putting cash in your pockets, well, people have done it for a long time, but coming and hitting people who are innocently here trying to shout for the sake of, I mean, many people here aren't broke, they're not poor, they don't come from poor backgrounds, but they're here for people who are in that predicament. So for people to abandon their daily work, for people to abandon other things they can do with their time, to be here in support of people who are earning much less than them, and to be beaten, I mean, that's way off. So yeah, that led to a lot of uprising, and but now I think it's curbed to some degree, but the bad taste is still in your mouth. Food tent. Would you like some water or
I'd love some water, yeah, sure. So you got a lot of it. Thank you.
A lot of it, yeah, that's the one thing.
So where do you get all of these like supplies from?
Donations.
Donations?
Yeah, everything's a donation. Yeah, and then every day sometimes we get some kind of food to give out or share amongst like people who do protests.
Will you lunch? Will you take your lunch?
I'm okay on the food front. Thank you though.
So yeah, we have this place, and then we have one more place there.
And everyone here is a volunteer, obviously, yeah? And like you said earlier, a lot of them, I presume, are not kind of super poor, otherwise they couldn't be here all day.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
they're
right.
like,
and this guy, he's a musician. There's a lot of famous people here too. Hon, popular musician in Sri Lanka.
nice to meet you, bro.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Popular musician, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a local star.
How much longer are you gonna be here for? Like, how long are you prepared to just like indefinitely?
Theoretically
Yeah.
indefinite until the guy leaves. I mean,
Right.
he'll for sure leave at the end of 2.5 years. 'cause then
So you're willing to stay for 2.5?
So let's see. Let's see. It's an ongoing discussion.
But do you really think he'll resign? Is that likely or nah?
I mean, I do think there is a chance that he might abolish presidency altogether. I mean, he won't resign in the cheap sense because that's too much of a defeat. But I think what he might do is he might abolish presidency. So there's a few upsides of that. One is he'll be the last president of Sri Lanka. It's a great title to have. Two is he doesn't have to face re-election because he knows he'll lose. So you might as well leave gracefully as the last person,
Yeah.
and then never have to run for re-election. And three, it'll leave room for their heirs, their children, to be the head of the country.
Right.
So, for example, if there's a presidency, it's unlikely at this point that the prime minister's son, who's the leading candidate from their side,
Okay.
will one day become the prime minister. It's highly unlikely this country is going to vote for him to be president. But it is possible that the country will vote for him to be in the parliament. If he's in the parliament and he's a part of the ruling party, the party themselves can put this guy to be the prime minister.
Right.
So he can kind of be democratically the leader of the country if there's only prime ministership. If there's a presidency,
Kind of like ruling from the back.
exactly,
seat,
kind of taking the back door in. I mean, if there's a presidency, people have to vote you. If there's a prime ministership, it's amongst the politicians that you get picked.
Got you.
So I think there's a few upsides of abolishing presidency, but resignation in the general sense, unless something crazy happens, I don't think so.
Unlikely, yeah. Oh, thank you very much. That's very
Yeah, they
kind
have
of
the
you.
cool stuff. See, Coca-Cola. we
I
don't have
know,
that.
right?
We don't have
This
this.
is
What is
luxury.
this? Is this chocolate chip? Yeah, see? Oh, damn.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the rich tent. Yeah, these guys speak in English and all these other things. You come to the other side.
Thank you very much. Should we see what's going on over there? Nice to meet you, bro.
Nice to meet you.
So your name was Eddie, right? By the way?
Yes, Eddie. What was your name?
It's Viraga.
Viraga.
Yeah, but V, you can just say V because that's what I usually
V, okay. It's very good what you're doing here. It's very noble and important. I respect it a lot.
different things bring people here. For me, it's the economy. Some people, it's the politics, some people corruption.
අන්න ඒ වෙනුවෙන් කරන එක්තරා අහිංසක සහ කැපවීමක ප්‍රතිඵලයක් තමයි අද දවසේ මේ ලියවිල්ල එන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මේක ඔබ බලන්න කාරණාවෙන් කාරණාවට අපි ගන්න උත්සාහ දරනවා මේ සියල්ලම අපි සාකච්ඡා කරමු. හැම වෙලාවෙම ඔබේ අදහස්, උදහස්, යෝජනා, චෝදනාත් එක්ක මේ ගමන ඉදිරියට යනවා. අපි හැම වෙලාවෙම